How was your day? Good? Okay. Nice?
Yeah.
It's very good. It's good.
We got the color.
Yeah, that's what I thought of saying.
We didn't even get a memo when we worked out.
All right, we are on.
We're on?
Yes.
Oh, you already started recording?
Okay.
Uh-oh. Okay. We'll bring to order our meeting for Thursday, May 19th, 2022. Do you want to do the call the roll?
Mr. Duffy will, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Here.
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 Anyone who intends to testify, please raise your right hand and be sworn in. I take it we still need to do that, correct?
If you want, yes.
And there, it looks like there's nobody to swear in, so we'll skip that. And on to the minutes.
Alrighty.
And it looks like Kelvin, our proofreader, has been through all of these, correct?
Yeah.
Man.
And I would invite anybody that has any kind of corrections to step up and voice that now.
And we'll do one set of minutes each time, so.
And we're going to start with the VA-CU-21.
Yes, for the November 18th meeting?
Yes, yes.
Any comments?
Other than what I sent you, no, I didn't bring it with me.
I read what he sent. I didn't see anything else.
I can pull your email, Kelvin.
Sorry?
I'll pull your email up.
Okay. There was, I think it was the next one. Yeah, oh, was? Okay, thank you.
Robin, can you can you just state for the record what the modification is for that?
Yeah.
No them ends. Alrighty.
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes from November 18th, 2021 as amended.
I'll second that.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 I have a couple on this one. On page 5, line 11, it says unknown speaker. I think it may have been Brett.
We can verify with Brett too.
Page 7, line 1, add the word the before the number 35.
That's if they actually said though.
Well, that's very true. But since we don't know, we can assume that they may have said the.
Yeah.
And we'll check all these too. So.
And page 36, the same thing, I believe, that the person said a complete sentence with line 15, add of between continuance and the VA 2119.
So add and of, is that?
Add the word of.
Oh, okay.
Because it says continuance and then it says VA 2019, and I believe probably said of.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as stated on VA-21-18 and VA-21 VA-19, correct? These are both together?
Mm-hmm.
I'll second. Yes.
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 I have a couple on that one as well. Page 25, line 9. It reads "go to go," and they probably said "good to go." And I believe on page 39, line 15, that should have read "had would" in front of "had."
Anything else?
Or anything from Kelvin? Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for March 17th, 2022, VA-21-20, VA-2201, and VA-2202.
I'll second.
Yes.
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 All right, last one. April 21st, 2022.
There are two. Page 15, line 8. At the end of the sentence, there's a comma, and it should be a period. And page 21, line 19. If you'll verify, it should say, "Stand my own notes."
Mm.
You'll just verify that one.
Yep. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, I will make a motion to approve the minutes as revised for April 21st, 2022, VA-22-03, VA-22-04, and VA-22-05.
Second.
Yes.
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 All right. So one more item on the agenda, since I wanted to take advantage of this time, since we didn't have any applications, which is a rare thing for the BZA. We have the zoning staff and I have been working at least probably mid last year on starting this zoning resolution rewrite. I know I have let you guys have some updates, but we just wanted to take this time to just open up the conversation. You guys do see several applications every year. Is there anything that you wish that you don't feel the need to see, or something that you think is missing in our zoning code or needs to be added, or something that we should just get rid of entirely, or any type of feedback that we can get on this? It doesn't have to be necessarily at this meeting today, but just the board members, we want your feedback throughout this process. Ultimately, the approval and recommendation process has to go through the zoning commission and the board of trustees, but we want to keep you guys informed along the way. We did hold an open zoning workshop last week. I know we saw a few of you there, so thanks for being there. As far as the attendance goes, it was pretty impressive. We had over 50 residents. Actually, one of the members from the public was there, so thanks for being there. But yes, I think it was a really good opportunity, one, to be interactive with our residents and kind of highlight some of the key issues. So the workshops that we had was, and there was a staff member at each one of them. So I was kind of like I'm trying to figure out what I feel like I talked about everything, but I was more on what the zoning district changes were and what is zoning and kind of explaining the process. We then had a section on housing to see what type of housing do you want to see in the township, because no matter what, we are going to be continuing growth in the township. I mean, with the Intel project, there's just going to be more demand for housing here, and no matter what we decide to do, or what, if we. Anyways, so that was a conversation. We had signage as a conversation, which was interesting. That was one of my ideas. I thought, because of how much signage variances you guys get, we wanted to see how we can try to eliminate that in a way, or at least reduce it. Another section we had was violations. So as far as our maintenance and enforcement goes, it's a little ambiguous in our code currently. So what do our residents want to see us enforce in the community? And, I'm sure there is a legal component to that, but we did further discuss that at the workshop. And then the other thing, we just had this fun exhibit at the end saying, what kind of development do you want to see in the township? And then you could just write your hopes and dreams on there. So, ultimately, we'll take that feedback and review it when we get to our uses. And so what Robin and I wanted to show you tonight specifically was so we don't have we don't have the text drafted at this time, but right now we have these calibration tables. I don't know if we want to hand those out. So the calibration tables that we're going to be sharing with you are showing you what's permitted, prohibited, and a conditional use for each of the zoning areas. So wanted to start with that type of general feedback first. I think the biggest thing you're going to see on the table, and I know I guess you're our newest member, but you guys also have some tenure here. But what you'll see on the calibration tables is that we are looking at increasing our conditional uses. So right now, conditional uses that you guys typically see are religious facilities, or religious entities, monument signs, and home occupations. I think those are the three big ones. I'm trying to think if I'm missing something. So that list would expand. Now, we are proposing to get rid of monument signage as a conditional use. So if the monument sign complies with the zoning text, they would not be presenting here at the board. That's one of the things that we're proposing. Trying to think of other common applications that you all get. I haven't been here in a while, but signage, of course. We're looking at increasing the height. I mean, mainly for, because right now our maximum sign height is 15 feet to finished grade. So, but we allow 50-foot buildings. So it just seems like a silly concept that you can only put your sign on the first story, whereas, if you can put it on your other stories, I think it makes a little more sense. But we can still be restricted with the lighting, of course, and other specifications to make sure it's not blinding us when we drive by. So that's kind of a highlight. I don't know if you want to add anything else, but these tables that you see here, we have been reviewing them for a couple hours a week for the past, several weeks at this point of time. So it's a pretty intensive or big undertaking, to say the least. I was just looking at our current project timeline, and I was totally off on when I thought the next meeting was, but we're not going to be ready to really present anything to the Zoning Commission until this fall. But started the engagement in these tables, and again, if you guys have general feedback, from your experience serving on our Board of Zoning Appeals, we're happy to take that.
Well, after going through those minutes, I kind of thought that one sticking point with Nissan North was they wanted to be, what do I want to say, like presenting a pole sign, but then cover it or make it one big sign all the way to the ground. And I really didn't think that was appropriate,
So was it more of a height concern at the end of the day?
Well, and size. I mean, because it was basically a big sign all the way down. Even though it didn't have maybe print or this or that on it, I think there needed to be some more delineation of, okay, well, how are we really supposed to look at the sign face? can the average Joe just say, oh, well, there's nothing there. We can take out all the space around my words.
Mm-hmm.
By the way they had presented, and of course Jeff said legal said this and legal said that. And I don't know. There's been a few times I haven't agreed with legal, and I think that stuff like that could get you in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But that's up to you guys. And since you're doing this code rewrite, I also think all these political signs that are against the code in many, many fashions should be eliminated and not allowed. And
Well, I understand the frustration with political, well, really any type of temporary signs, but it is a freedom of speech concern. So we cannot regulate signage based on content, and specifically, we cannot do anything with political signage. The issue is if there's been a ton of case law. If I pull somebody's and forget to pull somebody else's, then it's a huge lawsuit coming after us. So we take a stance, and the only time we will ever pull political signs if it's impacting our road, if we're doing any type of road work maintenance, or if it's clearly in the right of way.
So they can violate the right of way and all of that stuff, and not pick up their sign, not have the person responsible for that sign printed on the sign. The way
Now
our code reads,
we can pick it up after the elections.
well, our code reads that person has to be listed on that sign.
Yeah. So that our signage code where it currently stands is I say this lightly, is illegal. What we're doing.
Yeah,
So-
I know,
so,
and that's and the big thing is to me it's litter.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, if they really want to put up a sign, now they can put up a sign in my front yard, back from the right of way and all that stuff. Make it legit. They have to do their homework and legwork and everything to go out and get people to put their signs in their yards for coverage, rather than littering every corner in Orange Township with this stuff that, number one, has no contact, never gets picked up. Matter of fact, you've got tons of them still out there right now. And, the guy that's advertising house washing and all kinds of other stuff, he's not allowed to do it. Well, obviously they think that they can because the other guy can. And it's not right to really say, oh, okay, well, you can do it, but we can't.
Well, I'll look into it. I know political signage in particular is a very touchy topic.
Let it be touchy.
There's an additional thing where the HOAs will not allow them anywhere in the HOA controlled area. And I can tell you, as sitting on one of the boards, I had to literally go around and pull up signs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so HOA is not a government entity, so they might have my guess is they would have more of an authority than we would.
I find that the people putting the signs down aren't even contacting the HOA to see what the rules are.
Yeah. They just
stick them in. So
Yeah.
Well, number one is it breaks the rules of right-of-way and so much other stuff that's already written in our code. Number one, if you're going to allow that, don't you have to take that out of the code? Because if you've got it in the code that they've got to do this, this, and this,
Yeah,
to do what they're
we are
doing.
not. I mean, that's why I mentioned the illegal part. So if we are
Yes.
not allowed to enforce what's in that section, then we need to take it out, and we will.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay.
Was if you're going to allow it, which
If there are restrictions we can put in place, we will. I made note of that.
or clarification.
Sure.
A lot of it's clarification, and
Yeah, and so our temporary signs, another thing in our code that's absolutely, so we're required to hold on to them for like 6 months or something. So I mean, we at times our garage is just full of signs. So we would like to at least reduce the time limit to how long we hold them. So that will at least help from a staffing perspective. But yeah, I got to see what we can do with political signage.
I kind of thought you could probably turn it into a money-making thing, too, as far as
A business.
a fund. Okay, you did what you weren't
Yeah.
supposed to do. Your sign didn't say this. It was put in the wrong spot of the right-of-way. You know, here's your signs. Here's your fine. Please try to do better next year or whatever.
I mean, fines would be very that would be complicated because you know, I might not be running, but I could be the one putting out all those signs or something. So how would you know who is installing or who is putting those signs out?
It's the
Because it's
person
supposed to be
running.
on the sign.
Yeah.
It's right in our code. See, that's
Well, yeah. So what we will overall we will clean up what we can and cannot do in the signage regulations.
yeah. I'm just saying.
Okay.
It's you know, when you write the stuff and it's in our code and we're supposed to follow it, and then you say, "Oh, we're not
Yeah.
going to follow
So
that."
my guess is we wrote that part. So our zoning resolution hasn't had a complete rewrite since the early '90s. So if you can tell,
Yeah.
you know, from what Orange was like in the early '90s to where we are today, I mean, we're a little bit behind on the times. Now we have updated sections of our code more as I guess a reactionary basis. Like we had to change a section in our code regarding swimming pools recently, and that was again something we had to do from a legal standpoint, and we had a lot of resident feedback on that, so we made that change fairly quickly. But as far as looking at our zoning resolution overall, we have not done that in 20 plus years. So
Right.
my guess is some of that signage language could have been from the early 90s when it was more acceptable to regulate content, but now we're not allowed to do that. So yes, it's been quite the learning experience. But going back on signage, I mentioned the monument signs, so you guys do see those. That's a pretty common application. But I'm curious what your thoughts are. Is if it complies with the code, do you see a point of it being here? Okay,
No.
I don't either, but I just wanted to make sure.
No.
Okay, so you know we're getting rid of. That would come to you. But however, if you look at this list a little more thoroughly, you'll see there's several C's in there. I mean, right now we have 3 or 4 conditional use options, and this I haven't counted, but there's probably 30. That was just a very ballpark answer. Now the conditional use options that would be in the code or that we're changing in the code, that wouldn't be frequent. Mainly, I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. So an example for Lewis Center Village. If Lewis Center Village is a unique spot, they come here all the time because no matter what they try to build, they can't fit anything there.
Nope.
So one, we're looking at changing that district to offer them more flexibility with their zoning, so they don't have to come here every time, but also maintain their character. I'm trying to consider it more of like a historic district because it really is our original homes, some of our original homes there. However, they have an interesting mix of uses there. So they have that mercantile store, they have its farm office. So when a commercial use comes into Old Lewis Center, we want it to be a conditional use, so that at least the neighbors could be notified, and it would be presented at the board. So that's something new. So anything that would, and that also goes for the single family, because we were looking at considering like a coffee shop, a local coffee shop, restaurant in some of our single family areas, but we wouldn't want to administratively approve that. We think the public needs to be aware of that, and so for the public to be aware, we have to make it a conditional use. So that's kind of the stuff that you'll see in this. I'm trying to think of any other highlights to share. Yeah, I think I'm hoping you guys would see less variances in more conditional uses.
Both area variances and
use. I mean, hopefully, we've only had. I've probably done 3 or 4 use variances since I've been here, and those are pretty hard to validate or to justify approval. So I don't want to create more of those. I'd rather do more. We call them conditional uses here, but other communities say special use. So really, as long as the conditional use complies with X, Y, and Z, it should be an approval. But it gives the residents an opportunity to speak on those applications. I have so many little notes. Yeah, any other feedback? I mean, since I know some of you guys have various experience here, is there anything you've noticed during your time serving on this board that you look at it and you're like, why do I have this? Why do we have this application? Or I wish we could regulate this. I wish we could have done this. Any experience?
Back to the lighting, we often ask them what temperature the lighting is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in our code.
Correct.
And if we want it, I think we should have it in there. Otherwise, we should shut up.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, as a temperature check, what would you?
3,000. Well, 3,000 Kelvin.
You
is
want-
where we're at.
it to be an enforceable standard. So okay, 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000 Kelvin, I think.
I think that's what we've been suggesting and talking about.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the days of, I think, McCarthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
And I'm not sure where it came from, but
well, it has to do with light bouncing up and into the telescopes and stuff again. All the downlighting versus uplighting and things like that. That all functions around the color of the light because the yellows and the reds and stuff, they just don't travel that far and not to interfere with things.
and also they may want to address the new LED standards too, because LED's different. I don't even know if it's measured in the same way, honestly.
Yeah.
Does it go by Kelvin in
It
that?
goes by Kelvin also. There are different things on it, like pulsing it to get it to dimmable or whatever, but I don't know that we have to worry about that so much as movement.
How do you guys feel about digital signage? Or is that what it's called? Am I saying
Well,
digital
Digital
signage?
LED?
Well, moving or
Moving.
message boards.
You're talking
That's what
about
I'm.
moving.
Message
Moving
boards,
boards.
yeah.
No.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we were.
Yeah.
It's very distracting.
I even have trouble with this light that's just flickering at us.
What about so as far as so our schools have message boards.
Exactly.
I mean, how do you guys feel about permitting it for, I don't know, community or public?
Well,
Uses.
then every church
No.
in the area should have the same option. Because they're more or less public. The public uses those. Here, we could have a moving sign here. So if you're not careful, I think that could go astray pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
I don't know how.
I don't know the answer if we can limit it for certain uses, but yeah, I don't know
how
that.
they can single entities out that you can do this, but you can't. I really don't see if that got pressed in court.
Yeah.
I think it could cost somebody a lot of money, and maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll have to see. I mean, there's been case law that people argue that digital sign or message boards are content related. So I'll check with legal, but I'm getting the temperature that we're not interested in it.
Right.
Correct?
And
Okay.
also the moving.
Well,
The moving.
Yeah.
Moving.
The
So like flashing.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's like some of them are TV screens that can do anything. And they say, well, we'll limit them to 3 colors. Well, yeah, that's what you say, but now it's enforcement time.
And there's a storefront over close to Walmart that has half a dozen LED lights now in their tiny spot. window.
Really?
Was there today.
Okay. What
The
uses?
smoke shop.
Oh.
Part of that, I always get in trouble because the original development paperwork allowed them.
Mhm.
And so therefore we can't do anything zoning wise.
Yeah, I mean, what the changes that we're making, this would be for only new things.
Yeah.
So,
But it's a good timing now because I could see a lot of new
Redevelopment,
business is
yeah.
coming up. So it's the great timing to
Mhm.
enforce all this or, write it up so that they will
agreed.
follow them.
Mhm.
We haven't had it yet, but there are also laser display signs.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
TV projection is done by laser on a surface now. So
They even got hologram
so-
that's in the air that is amazing.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, they've done that at some of the like sports coliseums or whatever.
So what about so for fueling stations? We've had they either come to the BZA or they've gone to the zoning commission to have the LED signage. Now it's not consistently moving, but it's to
Right.
switch the number.
We allowed one of those because it was close to Columbus.
Yes.
And they had them.
But is that acceptable if it's not consistently moving?
Well, I think we better define what we mean by consistent.
Sure.
4 changes a minute, 4 changes a second.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to look at.
Frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we hired a consultant to do this. So the staff and I have been reviewing this thoroughly, but luckily, if we tell them this is what we want, then it's their job to put it all together. So
For me, I would think like changing is equal to the frequency changing. I don't see that there is a big difference going on there. The concept is, for me, I mean, at least it's me. I feel
Okay.
the concept is same, even if there is a frequency or constant movement.
yeah, I know just fueling stations. I mean, I'm hoping we don't have a ton more, but I think they don't do the I guess it's an older concept to have like the physically
Right.
switched
You're not
numbers.
talking about a moving sign, information moving across the sign. You're talking about being able to update.
Well, yeah. But some of them change quite frequently, which
Friendship
gets
Village
right back to
wanted
the
exactly
people that
that.
have
Yeah, no, that's
epileptic
friendship. Yeah.
type stuff from that.
That's a distraction.
But yeah, it's a new area that you guys need to get into, I think.
Yeah, so we'll look at that.
The other thing we saw a lot of this time is the pool piece.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
And
Well,
So how do
Fence height.
how do we feel about? And I know we've had this conversation before, but do we want to maintain the 5-foot fence, or so either 5-foot fence or lower fence, 4 feet, or the safety cover? I know it's a big issue.
Right.
Safety
So-
cover's the best.
so Delaware County doesn't require a fence.
Correct. The fencing requirements for pools is a township.
Yeah, Berlin's is 4, ours is 5. But what we've been approving recently is a lower fence with a safety cover. So the question is, I guess, either or. So, if you have a locking safety cover, do you, I think it becomes emotional too.
Oh yeah, no, ultimately whatever. So we want to start with you guys, zoning commission. Obviously, the trustees can do whatever they want with this, but typically it's very rare that they overturn our recommendations. But I think the pool one is a little more of a sensitive matter. So, but I mean, if whatever you guys are,
I
are
just think
interested
there ought to
in.
be a fence around a pool.
Yes,
Personally.
and so. Okay, how does everyone else feel about that?
I think there ought to be a cut on every foot.
With a
Actually,
fence.
Because without a fence, because that is your safest. Of some kind of accidental kid getting in there and falling in. 4-foot fence. Who can't get over a 4-foot fence?
Mhm.
If they see a pool, and then you run into the thing of all of your HOA things. They may not let you do a fence over 4 foot, or it may
Or a
have to
fence
be
at
an
all.
open split rail. That's really not going to do anything. So I mean, you're looking at one aspect, and then they've got an aspect that they can't do. So does that mean they can't have a pool if they can't do over a 4-foot fence? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, so I think I've been I think you guys had a couple applications like that recently. That HOA said this and we wanted this. And I apologize, I don't remember the results of that, but ultimately
They went to the cover.
We haven't approved any without a fence.
Okay.
We have not approved a pool without a fence yet. You're right.
Because they've all had fences
had
and they've
existing
gone to the
fences.
cover.
The difference is with the pool compliant fence is that it's hands off. So all of those fences are required to have self-closing gates. The pool cover requires someone to close it. So teenagers out in the evening playing with it in the pool decide to get out and go in the house. The pool cover can be left open. None of them are automatic. So somebody has to physically close that cover to cause that. Where your pool fences are designed so that there's not climbing rails horizontally at certain points. They can't be. There's all kinds of requirements. The lock on the gate has to be 48 inches from the ground. They're self-closing. So not that anybody, if you truly tried, you couldn't climb over a fence. That'd be pretty simple. But to accidentally walk into a pool would be difficult. And they think that was but again, Delaware County does not require fences. So it's just a matter of what.
Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately,
The
liability.
The cover is safer, no doubt. When the cover is closed and the hard cover is on there and it's locked, that's certainly safer. There's no doubt about it.
But are you here doing this as just totally a safety thing? I mean, why is that a concern, I guess?
True. That's a
because that is all on the
homeowner. The homeowner. That's true. That's a true
Which
statement.
I found out down in Columbus when we were thinking of doing that when our kids were young. It came down to the insurance company. And the insurance company said it will be chain linked, 10 foot high, over the top, and everything unlocked.
wow, you want you built a wall.
Well, or they wouldn't insure it because they wanted absolutely no accidental access to that water.
Well, they didn't want any access to the water, to be truthful.
Well, and I could understand, because they didn't want somebody climbing over a 10-foot. I guess you could probably make it taller if you wanted, but
we built our pool here in Orange Township when, and all the compliance that went along with it at the time. Yeah. I'm glad we did. I like the way it's set up, but still, all of the cases we've seen a ton of them.
We have one or two every month.
Yeah, right. So
yeah, and they come here because of to build a 5-foot fence is a significant cost.
Exactly right. Yeah, right. Exactly right. And the safety cover is truly a significant cost. And those hard covers these days, there's no doubt that's the safest way to go. When they're closed, when they're locked, no doubt about it. So, and we did. We have yet to approve a safety cover in lieu of a fence, and we haven't done that. But we have approved shorter fences, mainly because they were already there in some form or fashion. But we put more emphasis on the safety cover, probably.
So the safety concern kind of comes in, which you could cross this right back to your egresses too.
Sure, absolutely right. Yeah, which
and there's another hole you could fall into.
That's right.
And the egresses that I've noticed that they're putting in at this new development over here are kind of like a concrete deal. Do those count against the lot line? I don't know how they're doing that, but
at Evans Farm you're talking about?
No, right across the street here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've noticed. Yeah, they're putting in. A lot of them have double egresses, like the guy on the last meeting. Yeah, well, the one house they're building over here has a double egress out of the lower level.
Yeah. But are they put them in as a new build?
Yes.
Okay.
Then they would have to go along with the easements, I would think.
I'm not sure.
And move
because we didn't think we had patios, but some of the builders built patios, and they're not allowed either.
Yeah, and that's another conversation too.
Yeah, in a condo.
Okay, so
condo?
Yeah.
Well, not a condo, but at a house, you can have a patio.
Okay, so paver patios we do not enforce currently.
Right.
Concrete patios we do, and there's definitely been an argument on understanding what is really the difference as far as
it should be if it has a foundation.
Well, because in the past they did not enforce slab concrete of any kind. whether it was a patio,
Yep.
whether it was a sidewalk, whether it was around a pool,
Or a basketball.
anything. Now, if you had your
So
16, 24-foot footer on something,
yeah. So we would like to. So I guess we would rather focus more on minimum. What are we calling it? Lot coverage or open space, rather than nitpicking every concrete or paver construction.
Right.
So if that's something, again, if we require, let's say 75% open space on your lot, then it doesn't matter what you build at that point, as long as you comply with the setbacks.
and that's one thing I kind of thought.
Well,
we might
setbacks
wanna
for-
change,
yeah.
is the rear yard setbacks are large, and people are more apt to improve now, especially since the last 2 years of trying to use that backyard space or whatever, to kind of ease back on the rear yard setbacks of, I know a lot of them are what, 35 foot?
And they place their home all the
On
way
top
at the
of
back,
it, yeah.
all the way at the
Oh,
very,
no,
as
there's a
far
lot
back
of
as they
them
can,
now.
and there's nothing
Can't do
left.
nothing, right?
So they're constant.
On
Yeah.
that percentage, we don't worry about whether it's a foundation or not?
Well, I guess that's a question I'm having. So if
I mean, a foundation or footer,
A foundation, from what I understood, was, like a footer that's 16 inches in the ground. It's kind of like a minimum. I mean, they can go
Yeah.
deeper than that.
I think we can clarify or define a patio if there is, if there's a foundation, and I think we can work on that.
Well, and then Mr. Miller brought up, if it had re-rod and reinforcement and stuff like that.
yeah,
I don't know how you'd ever
I wouldn't bother
tell
with
about
that.
that, but I know they didn't put it in mine.
No, but that's a homeowner thing. When you're contracting with somebody and you want rebar, that's gonna up the price of your patio. I can tell you.
Yeah.
More and more folks are just putting fiberglass in.
Recently.
Yeah, they're putting it in asphalt too.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, that would
So
include
the
all
paper piece before was a permeable piece.
So then we might be
way
more
back when,
lenient on
anyway, was that,
setbacks, but we could be more
rain and what
restrictive
have you
on.
would run through the
Oh,
sand.
through the cracks?
Yeah, well, it
Yeah.
would run through the sand. So it was considered permeable, and concrete was not considered permeable.
Dude,
And at one point, the code read that way.
Yeah, it's only permeable of
Yeah.
crack
Yes.
lines that put it in there.
Good.
In all the cracks
And all the cracks that it gets.
that it gets into.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, going back on the pool.
Yeah.
So I guess, fence or no fence,
Fence.
well, and I think.
what about, so if we go fence, what if we reduce it to 4 feet?
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, because I think that's what a lot of HOAs have
Yes.
as a
Most
max.
I
And
think
you're
just
not
curious.
specifying what type of fence either, right?
Yeah.
Just as long as it's because a lot of them want, like my development is like an open,
Why?
you can't really have a fence except for like an open split rail. They don't want
Yeah,
fences.
so we don't, so the only time we look at fencing is for swimming pools. We don't regulate fencing otherwise. We rely on the HOAs to do that, so. And if you're not in the HOA, then depending on how high your fence is, it has to go through the county for permits. But if it's a 4-foot fence, no one does anything with it.
Let me play the devil's advocate, even though I brought up the fencing piece. So what's the purpose of requiring a fence? From a board standpoint, what's the purpose of us requiring a fence?
So I think the fencing requirement itself, my guess, is an older section of our code. So these safety covers probably may have not exist or wasn't as
Prevalent.
to it is today. So
Right, so that's why I bring that up.
Concerned about the health, safety, and welfare.
yes, I believe it was a safety concern at the time.
Right, so I understand what it was. But do we say you must have a fence, or do we say you are either required to have a fence or a safety cover that meets whatever requirement? I don't know that answer.
Or both.
Well, that's up to the homeowner. If we only require one.
That's my point. Is that right? So we throw some of that at the homeowner. I don't know that answer. I wouldn't have a pool without a fence. I wouldn't do it. But that's I
Well,
just
that's
don't from
you,
a
yeah.
board standpoint. I just wonder from a from a safety zone. I don't know the answer. Kind of
Quite a lot of our code is for safety.
Safety.
right. So I'm a
That's what I
fence.
kind of figured.
I'm a fence
They
fan.
want to add
Nope.
more beyond.
Mhm.
Did your insurance?
Well,
company question
how about this?
anything?
I'll take it to
Well, I
the
don't know because we told them we had.
yeah. I'll take it to the commission and the trustees that you guys were willing to reduce the
I think
fence,
4 feet's fine.
and we understand the safety cover is the best option for safety. However, we want to keep the fence standard, and I mean, even reducing it by a foot is a cost savings
Sure.
to the residents. So
And I don't know that the safety cover is the best safety.
Yeah,
measure
I know there's-
for accidents.
it's very
I think it's
conflicting.
the safest when it's on, but yeah, I think So,
okay, well, good. Okay, so we talked about signage. We talked about patios, pools. We are looking at decreasing the setbacks primarily for accessory structures. So for a deck, a swimming pool, shed, we're taking egress windows out. I don't know if that's come to you guys before, but it's kind of a hit or miss on if we consider it as a structure, but it's something
Well, what came up in our egress was the rating of the cover, so that if a kid was running, getting his ball or whatever, didn't break through the cover and fall down in the egress.
So I think we can. I'll check on putting standards on that, but I'd rather not have it come. If we can make sure the egress window is to our needs, I guess, to have it come to you just to encroach on a foot of the setback doesn't
Right.
seem
Yep.
necessary. So
Okay.
I'll.
Okay.
I
You're
would-
just
You know what I
talking
mean?
about a lot line issue rather
Yeah.
than a safety issue.
But I would count those more like the outbuildings and stuff, because it's really, yeah, it's structural, but it's really not outside of the flower bed 98% of the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, my house was designed with a bump out above grade, get what they call that, like in the kitchen.
Like a bay window. Or
Yeah, like a bay
Bay,
window type.
bay window.
Yeah,
Bay window.
and I mean, it was only, I'm thinking, at the most, well, yeah,
foot and a half.
maybe 16 inches or whatever. They said, well, we can't do it because it goes over the lot line. Even though the foundation was within the lot line. And that's,
That's
kind of why I was saying what I was as far as, okay, well, now you're into the lot line with an egress, which are getting more popular.
well into the setbacks, not
Well,
the lot line.
Well, the setback of the lot line.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the purpose of the egress window, safety, yes,
Yeah,
but,
just to get out.
but then also for the resale value, only if you have an egress window, if you finish the basement or if you have any rooms, even if it's a bedroom, you cannot call that as bedrooms until you have an egress window.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's another
That's-
reason, like it's getting popular now
Yeah.
because people are aware of that and looking for two office space. Most of them got remote jobs. So I think it's not because of the safety, it became popular now. It just became the alternative floors.
Yeah.
Living space.
Yeah, if it's a bedroom, you have to have
Yes,
egress.
But
yes.
honestly, you should
But
have
not
it
for
for
an
any
office.
occupation.
Actually, yeah, I think they're putting them in
Yeah.
for people to be able to get out if there's an unfortunate accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just something else,
No,
that
it's
seems
good
to be
conversation.
newer that we're
Yeah.
headed towards. That's the
Um,
only reason we brought that up.
Okay. Good. Anything else?
Wasn't that enough? Oh.
I have some notes, so it's good. No, but please feel free to take a look at these tables, and we'll continue sending you updates along the way. I don't know how we'll do the meetings yet, but I'd like to have another meeting with you guys to kind of at least show you the draft text before we start, before we get to any approval stages on it. So you'll be seeing that. But my guess is it's going to be more fall. This is about a 1.5-year project. It's a pretty big.
Yeah, I think clarification is always
Yeah.
what's needed.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some inconsistencies throughout our code, and it's kind of like a puzzle. You have to look at one code and it tells you to look at another one to look at this, and then you just don't. So that we're trying to clean up. Formatting will be a little more, I guess, easier to follow. But yeah, we'll give you updates along the way. So still early stages, but if we don't address some of these things now, it could be easily forgotten in the 200 pages of text. So
What does P stand for? Permitted,
Oh.
okay. And then C is conditional. Are there anything else?
the blanks are just means it would not be permitted.
Okay.
And
Well,
then
it
so
means-
everything that has a C would be coming to you guys.
Yeah, so this is,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so this is a.
Yes, you're right.
Well, if
Yeah.
it was all approved.
So we do have a couple corrections here, we crossed out P and
Yeah.
C.
That's all I have for this evening. Thanks for all being here. I really appreciate it. I know we didn't have any applications, but
It's a rare
hey,
occasion.
this zoning rewrite, I mean, not only affects our boards, but I mean every resident, every business owner, every property owner.
Yeah.
It makes an impact. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Close out, Rick.
Okay. We are all done. You ready to go? Meeting adjourned.